Let's take the northern border with Lebanon. We've been seeing increasing skirmishes there, and particularly in the last 24 hours, for example, we've seen multiple anti-tank missiles, rockets, live ammunition being fired out of Lebanon into Israel. And in response, Israel has hit Hezbollah targets with a number of airstrikes. It's a really escalating situation there. It's almost like the most volatile situation we've seen there since the 2006 war between Lebanon and Israel. And we know that Israel is taking it so seriously because they have actually evacuated tens of thousands of residents who sort of live within that 2-kilometre range of the Lebanese border. They've evacuated them out to more central parts of Israel. So that gives you an idea of how seriously Israel is taking this escalation. We don't really have any firm or concrete understanding from Hezbollah yet as to whether or not they will increase their involvement. It seems at the moment they're kind of happy to keep things at this low level, but Arab states are angry. The rest of the Middle East and the Arab world in the Middle East is increasingly angry and frustrated at what they are seeing happening in Gaza, the increasing humanitarian crisis there, and the continuing Israeli airstrikes. Just in the last few hours, there's been another airstrike in Khan Yunis in Gaza. We're hearing reports that at least 13 members of one family was killed in that airstrike, including a number of children. There's some really horrific images coming out of there, and I've just received word of another airstrike that's happened further south as well, a number of people that have been killed there. And when I have been travelling around, like, for example, the West Bank yesterday, the mood is very firmly agitated. People there are calling for a Palestinian uprising. Further than that, they're calling for an Arab uprising. When I was in Ramallah just 24 hours ago, they were talking about how they wanted Hezbollah to join the fight, and they were chanting, "Hezbollah, we will be your soldiers." So I don't know where it's going to go, but the tension is certainly here, and the risk of this spreading out further into the Middle East, I don't think that can be underestimated.
Yeah. Of course, Joe Biden left with a promise from Egypt to open the Rafah crossing to let aid in. Do we know when that might start?
So Friday is the date that has been signed between Joe Biden and Egypt. That's in about 24 hours' time. But I think that's a technicality, and we should probably keep that in mind, because we know that there have been a number of Israeli airstrikes on that border between Gaza and Egypt. So there are roads that are extensively damaged there. They may need to be repaired. It mightn't be as simple as just letting trucks across the border, and only 20 trucks have been given permission to go into Gaza from Egypt, and we know that there are more than 100 trucks that are actually stationed on the Egyptian side carrying aid at the moment. And when you think about the scale of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, 20 trucks doesn't seem sufficient. You've got hundreds of thousands of people that are desperately running out of food and water and even medical supplies. We've been hearing some horrendous stories from doctors in Gaza this week that they have been operating on patients without anaesthesia because they simply have run out of medication. So to have 20 trucks going in total at this point in time, that's the agreement that has been sort of negotiated. It doesn't seem like enough. In fact, the UN says that at least 100 trucks are needed every single day to meet the needs of the civilians in Gaza that are currently suffering through this humanitarian crisis. And things possibly will get worse.
Of course, Joe Biden has given Israel his full support, particularly when it comes to responding to Hamas's attacks. Do we have any sense of what Israel's next move is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, there's caution, but also I think an acceptance that there wasn't really a push for a ceasefire. It seemed very unlikely, if he indeed did ask for some sort of a ceasefire, that it would be agreed to. So I think with that in mind, it means that this war will continue. Exactly what format that takes is still to be seen. We know that there are still airstrikes that are happening, in the last few hours, as I just mentioned. We haven't seen any rockets coming out of Gaza today just yet or anything from Lebanon, but it is still quite early in the day and things usually heat up in the afternoon. And we have those thousands of Israeli army troops that have also stationed themselves around the southern areas of this Gaza Strip. That could be getting ready for a ground offensive. There is some suggestion that now that Joe Biden has left, that he almost has implicitly, given some sort of diplomatic agreement that Israel can pursue Hamas in whatever means necessary. Now, I don't know if that does mean a ground offensive will happen, but certainly from what we can see near the border, it can't be discounted. So it's really up in the air. But you look at previous wars like, 2014, that went for 50 days. We're only 10 days in to this war now, so I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. And keeping in mind, you've still got those, nearly 200, according to Israel, Israeli citizens that are being held hostage in Gaza, and it doesn't seem that there has been any sort of diplomatic negotiations going on to try and release them. The latest that we've heard from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is that he is demanding that they be seen by the Red Crescent, but we don't know if that's happening in Gaza. And Hamas has previously said that that the Israeli captives will be killed when civilians are killed in Gaza. So it's a little unclear how this is going to play out, and I don't think that Israel is really, making it public just yet, but I think the idea of a ground offensive shouldn't be discounted.